The plot of Avengers Doomsday has supposedly leaked, and we covered that right here on the channel, but now we have a supposed full plot leak for Avengers Secret Wars that features the return of Tony Stark, all three Spider-Men, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, an imprisoned Steve Rogers, and so much more. So, I want to read this leak with you guys and stop and share my opinion and analysis along the way. We'll talk about if we think it's real, and if so, do we like it? But before we start with Secret Wars opening scene, let's do a refresher on how Doomsday is rumored to end. So in Doomsday, it will be revealed that Steve Rogers' time in the past, which we saw in Endgame, it is indirectly responsible for the death of Dr. Doom's wife and child. When Steve went to the past to be with Peggy and immediately got her pregnant, Loki showed up and warned Steve that his presence there was destabilizing reality. So Loki offers to move Steve to a different universe so that the branching timeline that Steve created by staying in the past, it would be no more. But Steve could still have his happily ever after with Peggy and their son. So what Loki does is he moves Steve and Peggy, their son, to a different universe, Universe 828, the Fantastic Four universe, which is also the home universe of Doctor Doom. So Steve lives there for 10 years, and it is later revealed that his presence in that universe is what caused that universe to begin having an incursion with the universe that Steve is from, Universe 616, the mainline MCU. Apparently, Doom became aware of this incursion, and he was experimenting with ways to save their world from said incursion. And in the process, there was this big lab accident that brutally scarred Victor and made it to where he had to wear this mask and this armor, and the accident also resulted in the death of his family. So in Doomsday, and we've actually already seen this in the post-credit scene for Fantastic Four First Steps, we will see Doom go to the Baxter Building to recruit the Fantastic Four to help him save their universe. And they'll also find Steve as the anomaly existing in their universe. So they pick him up and they ask him to come with them to his universe to convince his old friends to help execute Doom's plan, which is said to be placing massive cannons on each Earth and blasting the very connective tissue of their universes, which, make up the multiverse. And by doing so, it will make it to where incursions are no longer possible. They will be completely separate, similar to how I guess the sacred timeline was completely separate from the rest of the multiverse. Blasting this very fabric that connects these different universes will eliminate incursions. But we then find out that Doom is lying about all of that and the whole time, and his actual plan is to allow the incursions to happen and for the entire multiverse to collapse so that he may rebuild it in his image, using the power that he has stolen from Loki. And yes, rumor has it that Doom rips Loki's heart out, killing Loki for, the 10th time?
9th time. That business on Cato and Amodia doesn't count.
Anyway, Doomsday ends with the Avengers, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and an army from Valhalla all charging on Latveria, Doom's kingdom. And inside of Doom's castle, he has Steve and his son, and he kills Steve's son right in front of Steve because he wants Steve to feel the same pain that he felt when he lost his son. And we then see Doom essentially win the war, the incursion's complete, the multiverse dies, the incursion, just wipes everything out, every universe incurs, and everything's gone, leaving everyone but Doom dead. And then Doom uses his newfound Loki powers to create Battleworld, which I think will actually exist within the Void. I think the Battleworld, the patchwork of different universes that in the comics, it's a patchwork of different worlds made into a planet, and that is Battleworld. I think the Void, which we know exists kind of outside of the multiverse, and we know Cassandra Nova wanted to destroy all the timelines and universes to where the only thing left was the Void. I think when the multiverse collapses, the Void, of course, still exists, and Doom's battle world will be built there. So anyway, Doom, he resurrects everyone, and I think he'll probably resurrect Steve's son as well, but he could hide that fact from Steve, because as we'll read in the leak for Secret Wars here, the supposed leaked plot, we know that he has Steve locked away. So maybe he resurrects Steve's son because, like, oh, Doom's not that big of a monster. He's gonna not actually have the kid be dead, but he'll let Steve think he is. Or, as we'll talk about here in a second, because I did kind of skim the leak. I haven't read it thoroughly, but I've already read some of it, and so there's reason to believe that he might actually try to rub in Steve's face, hey, I'm your son's daddy now, or something. So anyway, we see everyone who was in Latveria get resurrected, all the Avengers, X-Men, everybody, and they are now living their lives with no memory of the old world, no memory of their lives from before. So now let's get into Secret Wars. A year has passed since Battleworld was formed by Doom. Most of its residents have no idea about the old world, with only a few exceptions. Everyone on Battleworld, whose nature is medieval and feudal, believes it has always existed. Their past lives have been rewritten into roles: barons, rulers, citizens of domains, etc. Okay, so that's right on track with Secret Wars comics, right? There are different sectors, and no one remembers the world before. Good, very good. Let's continue. All three Spider-Men, Tobey, Andrew, and Tom, remember the old world, as do Namor, the Young Avengers, Vision, She-Hulk, Deadpool, Sadie Sink's Jean Grey, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, Reed Richards, and Sentry. Together, so Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is going to be with Sadie Sink's Jean Grey. Interesting. Together, they form a resistance after realizing that Doom is not just a ruler, he is the very engine of reality itself. Battleworld exists because Doom is actively maintaining it using Loki's stolen power. Okay. That right there sounds awesome, because we know that the multiversal loom is what kept Kang, or He Who Remains, sacred timeline held together, right? Kept it intact. Now, Loki destroyed the loom, and he is now holding together all those universes or timelines, whatever, in the same spot at the end of time, where the Citadel once sat. And now, Doom, who I think has essentially transported his Latvian castle and kingdom, whatever, to Battleworld, or create it to the void where he has now created Battleworld. Maybe that whole kingdom that is now in the void where he has built, his new domain, maybe Doom is using that same power to like hold that very existence, that very patchwork of existences together. And in these leaked concept images for Secret Wars, we do see green magic like glowing from Doom's eyes. I know that's something we've seen in the comics and the games and stuff too, but could be the Loki green magic happening there. Okay, continuing on, they break into Battleworld domains. They split up and travel through different domains, each acting as a broken patch of old universe. They search for weaknesses in Doom's structure. It's almost sounding like it's like it's like Wanda's hex. Oh my God, he's doing what Wanda did with the hex. He is doing exactly what Wanda did in WandaVision with the hex. Everyone's under this spell that's in his kingdom, his Battleworld kingdom, but those outside of it, out in the void, they're not under that spell. Maybe he's even using Scarlet Witch to help him do it. Maybe he took her power. Maybe she's helping him. Maybe she's in the void and it's her who's going to help bring it down. Ooh. He's doing exactly because he's got everybody convinced, oh, this is our life here. But and later I think in the thing they say people are glitching. Okay. All right, let's continue. They recruit allies who are beginning to glitch. Yeah, right there. Regaining memories or questioning reality. Oh my God, they're doing what they did in WandaVision. I love this idea, especially getting to see our heroes in so many different settings and kind of meeting again for the first time and the different lives they're living. That all sounds cool. All right, Doom commands an army of Thors, variants of Thor, with Doctor Strange as his second in command. That also falls in line with those leaked images, and I won't be surprised if we learn that, one of Doom's main sidekicks in Doomsday, he's apparently going to have masked sidekicks. I wouldn't be surprised at all if one of them is revealed to be Doctor Strange. There's also the Coven of Witches thing, so I think we could see Clea, maybe even Scarlet Witch, maybe Sylvie serving as, a part of his team. I don't know. We continue. Doom also has his coven of witches, and of course, Loki's stolen power. Yelena serves as Doom's third in command, though she has no powers. Sentry is taken and is held captive under lock and key. Another key figure Doom keeps is Steve Rogers, the only person whose memory he deliberately preserved. Doom hates Steve and wants him to witness his victory, to see that Doom has won and built a new family, while Steve has lost everything. Okay. So look, a key change that I think we're seeing between the original plan for Secret Wars and like the original Secret Wars comics is that perhaps the plan originally when they were still going to do like Kang Dynasty is, I think they were probably going to adhere more to the comics and have Reed Richards, Pedro Pascal Reed Richards, be the guy that Doom hates. But it looks like when the Russos came in, they changed it up and they're going to have it be Steve, which, I mean, I get that. I do, especially with Doom being played by RDJ. That rivalry is just the one that general audiences are more familiar with. So while I get, while that may piss some people off, I also get why they're doing it. I do think that we could see Doom take Peggy as a wife, like brainwash her or whatever, and have Steve's like resurrected son acting as now his son, similar to what he does to Sue and Franklin in the comics. But, you know, Doom, he doesn't have to just take Peggy and James, or Jim, whatever Steve and Peggy's son's name is. He doesn't have to just take them. He may take Sue as a wife and Franklin as a son, like in the comics. He could take Love, Thor's daughter, as now his daughter. T'Challa Jr., he could take him as his son. You know, we had those theories about Doom, like rounding up the different kids. Doom, he could steal all of our heroes' families and make them his own family to attempt to fill that void left behind. Okay, let's continue. Instead of directly attacking Doom, the Resistance focuses on turning his forces against him. She-Hulk gathers the Hulks, Deadpool manages to restore Thor's memories, and the Young Avengers unite the mutant population. Tom, that makes me wonder if maybe Sadie St. Jean Grey is part of the Young Avengers, and maybe you put in Laura in there, X-23. Spider-Man rallies New York. Reed Richards gathers the remaining members of the Future Foundation. Meanwhile, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, who escapes Doom's prison with Yelena's help, they set out on a mission to find Loki. Since Doom restored everyone, Loki is alive as well, and he is the only one capable of stealing Doom's power back. God, they really do just kill and resurrect Loki a lot, don't they? Anyway, if I get to see Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, and Hugh Jackman, Wolverine share a series of scenes together, like working together as a team, oh my God, that would be awesome. So Loki is found in an Asgardian domain that has become a casino, a shady, corrupt version of Asgard. There they encounter Sylvie, Mobius, OB, and other TVA members working in the casino. Loki is the manager, but he refuses to believe their story and throws them out. At their lowest point, they discover someone unexpected. Tony Stark. He is a miserable drunk, gambling away his life in the casino, and initially refuses to join them. Eventually, they convince him, and then they convince Loki as well. Okay, so are we meant to believe that this is like a variant of Tony Stark that was like out in the void already and now he has made his way to this casino that's on Battleworld? Or is this supposed to be a resurrected like 616 Tony Stark? That's unclear to me. I don't know if I like the idea of resurrecting Tony Stark. I don't know. At the final battle, let's continue. At the final battle, armies from across Battleworld gather to storm Doom's castle. Thor and the Hulks fight against the army of Thors, while Sam leads the resistance against the witches, Doombots, and the rest of Doom's forces. Reed Richards, Yelena, Sue, who now remembers everything. Okay, so maybe about her being a wife is the case. Reed Richards, Yelena, Sue, Steve Rogers, Hulk, She-Hulk, Tom Holland, Spider-Man, Sentry, Loki, Iron Man, Wolverine, and Tobey Spider-Man all confront Doom directly. Good lord. Doom overwhelms them, defeating them brutally, and they are nearly killed. Reed and Sood then try to reason with Doom, telling him that he is grieving for his family and that Battleworld is not the answer. He is briefly convinced, but ultimately rejects it and attacks them again. They are then saved at the last moment by Toby, Hugh, and Tony. Again, not crazy about them bringing Tony back, I don't think. I mean, I'll love it, but like, you said you weren't going to do that, but seeing Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, Hugh Jackman Wolverine, and then Tony Stark back as Iron Man working together, come on, that would be cool. They managed to hold Doom off long enough for Loki to reclaim the stolen power and restore the multiverse. Everything returns to normal. Loki returns to his throne, but not before saying a final goodbye to Thor and his TVA friends. Everyone is sent back to their original universes. Yes, Deadpool, Wolverine, the X-Men, and the Fantastic Four return to their own realities and do not join the MCU. What this means for the future is unclear. The MCU continues as it was before. Okay, that's interesting, very interesting, because the assumption has been that after Doomsday, when the multiverse collapses, and then after Secret Wars, when it is reassembled, the assumption was that the new MCU would now have the Fantastic Four living within it, plus Deadpool, and maybe even Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. And, of course, mutants would become like a more prominent piece of the MCU, and that's what's been assumed, is that all the characters that we would be following in the movies would now be in one cohesive universe. That's really what's been teased. But if they send the Fox X-Men back to the Fox X-Men universe, I mean, that's great. I'd love to see them like get that happy ending. I don't necessarily, I don't want to see all of them like die or something or just not exist anymore because their universe doesn't exist. I like the idea that, they get to go back to their universe and maybe we just never see them again, but they do go on to live in peace. But the idea that Deadpool is sent back there as well, the idea that the Fantastic Four are sent back to their universe, Universe 828, as well. That's wow. I could see the argument for maybe keeping Deadpool over in his own reality, and I really want to see Hugh Jackman continue as Wolverine, and maybe that becomes difficult if you have him in the same universe as the new X-Men, so maybe it makes sense to have like him and Deadpool be over in their own world. I personally thought that the way they could handle that is by having like Deadpool and Wolverine become like TVA agents and, have them like going on different missions throughout different realities and time and not super connected to the MCU and like the main story going on in that main universe. But I can also get down with them returning to their world. And I guess every once in a while they have a run-in with the other original X-Men, not the new X-Men that are in the MCU. I don't know. I feel like at that point it gets a little convoluted and becomes too much. But anyway, I can see the argument for handling Deadpool that way, and especially Wolverine. I cannot see the argument for sending the Fantastic Four back to their world. This is your brand new MCU Fantastic Four. You aren't going to have them in the main MCU timeline. You aren't going to have them sharing a world with Spider-Man and the Avengers and the new X-Men. If we want to see them all cross over, it's going to have to be more timey-wimey multiverse stuff. That's a choice. That's a choice. All right, let's continue. The TVA later gets Steve, Peggy, and their son, who is alive again, in a new universe, one where they existed but died. I hope it's more so like died of old age and like it's in the future or something. This will now prevent any incursions from occurring again. Okay. I feel like incursions happen or don't happen. The rules on that are so convoluted. Anyway, before leaving, Steve asks the TVA for one last favor. Years later, an older Steve Rogers is visited by the TVA. They bring him back to Earth 616 at the end of Endgame, so this is the favor he asked for, so he can pass the shield to Sam. After saying a final goodbye to Sam and Bucky, he returns with the TVA to the reality where Peggy and his son live. The end. All right, that I like. I've always said that I like the idea of the old man Steve Rogers at the end of Endgame being a Steve that has already lived through the events of Doomsday and Secret Wars. So That could be very cool. All right. This sounds... It sounds good. It doesn't sound perfect. There's a few things that I'm kind of iffy on, but I want to hear your thoughts on it. Do you guys even think this thing is real? And if you do you like it? Do you like this idea for Secret Wars? Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified every time I upload a new video. I'm Colton Ogburn, and I will see you next time. Bye!